You know, they say with great power comes great responsibility, comes great movie lists. These are the Spider-Man movies ranked.
We take that responsibility very seriously. I'm Perri, this is Coy, you are watching Collider Movie Club.
So I'm very excited about this episode because
I thought you would be.
I mean, it's my guy, and we are ranking them. Now, this is both intense and exciting because, frankly, the internet's going to have their own opinions, and we're going to share our full ranking at the end, but we don't know the others' ranking.
No.
So we're going to be diving in, and there's 8 films in the Spider-Man world, and we're going to start at number 8 and build to number 1 because you can't start with number 1. You got to get there. Are you ready for number 8?
I think I am. I'm very, very happy that you, of all people, is the one that I'm
If this
doing.
is the only
There's no one better for expert Spider-Man opinions than this guy.
I'm
right
so
here.
ready. I learned to read with Spider-Man. Age 2, got my first Spider-Man comic, Todd McFarlane, Spider-Man number 2. August 1990 was the cover, and I got it. Yeah.
I feel like right now we should cue like itty bitty Coy holding a Spider-Man
I
comic.
actually have that picture. I'll send it to you. We'll have the graphic in there. That's the option. I'm so sorry. But that is how long I've been in love with this character. So the fact that there are 8 movies of him, I never thought we'd see one. And now we're going to rank them, which is very hard. So Sophie's choice times 8.
I don't have the same attachment to Spider-Man or the same origin story in terms of my connection to the character as you do. But as we go through this list, I will definitely highlight the movie that made me especially enthusiastic about this particular
And there's
superhero.
one specific movie?
Oh, yeah, without a
Okay,
doubt.
perfect.
Without a doubt.
Well, let's kick it off with number 8. What is your least favorite Spider-Man film, which is still a good film?
Put me on the spot. It is still a good film because I quite enjoy it, but it's The Amazing Spider-Man 2. I think that this one is trying to do a whole lot. Not all of it works. Some of it does work. But regardless, whenever I watch it, it's still a very enjoyable adventure that I think is propelled to a certain level of entertainment value and also heart, courtesy of Andrew Garfield's performance in particular.
I didn't know if this would happen. Amazing Spider-Man 2, we share one so far. I didn't know if that would happen, but one film is shared. I would say that the strengths of Amazing Spider-Man 2 are when Mark Webb gets to make what Mark Webb does best, and that's relationship drama. Emma Stone and Andrew Garfield have such good chemistry, they dated for real. And I love that shows on screen. I love the emotion between them shows. I also love that we have a beautiful moment with Gwen Stacy that reflects the comic books so very tragically, and it was a movie that actually did a deep-cut Easter egg before it was more common. The moment she drops down and snaps her neck, the clock reads 121, and Amazing Spider-Man 121 is the issue she died in. So there is a very tragic Easter egg reflecting that back. So when you rewatch this, you actually see the 121 reflected. The movie itself, a little bit of villain fatigue, definitely some choices, but I would posit that the best web swinging and the best Spider-Man visual that feels tangible might be in this one. There's so much you could use the Z-axis.
Oh, you're talking about the Spider-Man swinging in general.
Yeah.
The effects in this
Really
movie
incredible.
and Webb's other movie, it's pretty solid.
And like the use of the depth of field against Electro and things are stunning. So there are merits. There's plenty of things that aren't spectacular, which is why it's number 8. But
Jamie Foxx does some good things with that role too.
Yeah.
It's just a matter of a movie being, I guess, overstuffed and not necessarily serving what he's trying to bring out of that character well enough.
And good but not great. And that's the beauty of the Spider-Man films is our number 8 isn't unwatchable. Like there are plenty of franchises where the bottom of the barrel is the bottom of the barrel.
Yeah, I rewatch this one quite often.
It's good.
All right, next one.
Yep, number 7.
All right, my number 7, like I still love it. I can't believe I'm putting this at number 7 is Spider-Man 3.
You knew this was coming, Pete.
I know this one kind of gets picked on a lot, but I kind of enjoy some of the swings that it takes, and I've always been a big fan of Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man, and I think he's still expanding the character quite a bit there, and I think one of my favorite components of this movie is the Harry Osborn arc. I think that is way more powerful and effective than it gets credit for just because this is usually the one movie of that trilogy that doesn't get a whole lot of love.
My number 7. It may shock and surprise you. Is Spider-Man 3.
What?
Spider-Man 3, I find Thomas Hayden Church does such incredible work here. I feel like the Thomas Hayden Church of it all is really slept on. People don't talk about how interesting Sandman is, how powerful he is, how much depth there is in that character. And I think that people remember the bad highlights like the emo Spider-Man and, Topher doesn't quite work and those things. Are you an emo fan?
I am not going to say that emo Spider-Man is a good thing, but the joy it brings me when I watch that portion of the movie, I don't care.
There is a retroactive appeal. It was really hard coming off of Spider-Man 2 going into that and then seeing that and being like,
very
what's
understandable.
going on? But I think that Spider-Man 3 is also not unwatchable. And if you made the movie Sam Raimi wanted to make, which was a Sandman film, and if you made the end of the arc of the Goblin Saga, which is the beautiful Harry Osborn thing, and then that led into the Spider-Man 4 they wanted to make, which was going to be Vulture and Black Cat, which was the original plan with Anne Hathaway as Black Cat before she ever played Catwoman, John Malkovich as Vulture before he got into the more indie fare again. It was going to be a beautiful long arc to Venom, which we never got to see, unfortunately, but I think the movie does work better with some time away from the ouch of Spider-Man 2 dropping to 3.
All right. Not that it matters, but we're 2 for 2 right now.
I know. I'm shocked.
All right. So you should go first on this next one.
So my number 6 is a movie that works in a lot of ways. It is one of the coolest alternate costumes. It definitely reads nothing like the comic books, but Amazing Spider-Man number 1 is my number 6.
Who are you? No one seems to grasp the concept of the mask.
Why are we the same?
That's amazing.
Why are
I
we
didn't
the
think
same?
We had any in common. That's
Really?
okay. I just thought we have a different, like, you're a horror person. I'm
Part of me wishes that at the top of this episode, I made you predict my list.
Yeah,
just
'cause I
because I'm
would've been
curious to know
wrong.
what you think of my list.
I just think that you lean more horror and I lean more comic traditionalist. So I would just statistically think they'd be different just because of our, you have a Sam Raimi disposition that I don't. And some things like that I thought would skew it.
I mean, I would just assume, I would think one would assume that any one of these Spider-Man movies that has Bruce Campbell in it would automatically bump it up on my list.
I also would assume that if 8 movies are in order, 3 of them wouldn't be in a row so far. So Amazing Spider-Man 1 introduces a fantastic new Spider-Man. I'm a big Andrew Garfield fan. I think that he had a lot of really great moments. I think there were certain things that didn't work. They introduced the Ultimate Spider-Man comic line in the year 2000 that really revamped Spider-Man in general, and I think that they followed that storyline to its detriment here. I think they tried to make him a little too cool. I think they tried to do some things that I think they misread the comic. Sometimes you read a comic and you get different things out of it than the masses, and that hurt this film. But overall, you got a great new Uncle Ben, great new Aunt May. You have a very new telling of the character that does land better than people remember. I think this movie will be seen more positively with some hindsight.
Yeah, I vividly remember seeing it for the first time and being very pleasantly surprised because I grew up very attached to the Tobey Maguire version of Spider-Man on the big screen, at least, and I was very sensitive about Andrew Garfield taking over. But, I also very much remember some of the things he said at events like San Diego Comic-Con. There was something about him that really just off-screen oozed passion for this opportunity and the chance to bring this character to screen his way. And then I'm very convinced that I could still feel that in the final product when I'm actually watching the movie. And that definitely upped how lovable that character was. Even though he was very different from again, I'm not as familiar with the source material as you are, but when I'm sitting there comparing it to Tobey Maguire's version, it's different, but it still works because I think Andrew Garfield, from his talent and his passion, had such a firm and strong command over that version of the character.
Totally agree. And I think that we really needed to see that dichotomy to see how versatile the character is. It gave us more Spider-Man.
I like that.
So I think, let's go with number 5. What do you got?
All right, now it's my turn again. I love this movie so much. 5 feels like a bad number, but I love, love, love this movie. Spider-Man Far From Home.
I would totally kiss you, but I think I just threw up in my mouth a little.
I might have a mint.
Is it yours?
It is. That's actually, so our bottom half, that's the bottom 4.
Are we going to end up with the same list?
That's going to be insane. Statistically improbable.
I know.
Either way,
it's probably unlikely. There's so many things that I love about this movie.
Yeah.
I love so many of the set pieces, and the ensemble is phenomenal. I feel like I'm saving my Tom Holland praise for when we get to his first solo movie. But just to touch on some of the other actors in this. Jake Gyllenhaal, I know you love Jake Gyllenhaal. Such perfect casting as Mysterio. I think he is excellent. And then I'm also a really big fan of Jacob Batalon and Zendaya. And it's very exciting to me when I see a sequel to a movie like a Spider-Man movie where Spider-Man Peter Parker is the heart of the movie, but I see the supporting characters so well fleshed out, and also not just fleshed out, but fleshed out in a way that feels so specific to these two actors.
I agree.
Like, there is no other version of Ned and MJ
that feels
that
like this.
yeah, like this is so purely them. It can't be played, but they can't be played by any other actor
I see
out
that.
there.
And my Jake Gyllenhaal thing is the fact that the character of Mysterio is a con man. He's a guy that's he's hoodwinking people with powers, and we knew that as comic book fans. Everyone that knows the character of Mysterio, but Jake Gyllenhaal is so charming that there was a moment during the movie I was like, what's going to happen? And they tricked me. Even though I knew, they still tricked me because Jake is that good. He's also so good an actor, he can play a bad actor. There are scenes in this movie where he has to play like he can't act, and he does it well. There's so many moments in this movie that only this cast could do, and Jake plays such a great, endearing best friend figure to Tom that you really feel that heartbreak. And I think that through what we're experiencing in the Marvel Universe right now, this film takes place later in the MCU than we think it is. I think J.K. Simmons is a multiverse character introduced before the multiverse crashes, and I think that Mysterio arguing about the multiverse in that film was actually a real multiverse. So I think this movie is going to retroactively mean much more to the overall MCU, and J.K. Simmons being introduced this early on is a bigger impact for the crossover, the inevitable multiverse.
I don't know how to follow that up.
With number 4, we've got Sam Raimi's Spider-Man, number 1.
Remember, with great power comes great responsibility.
We're still the same. We're still the same.
Number 4, Spider-Man?
Yeah.
Sam Raimi?
Spider-Man, yeah.
So, okay, so...
Wait, can I go first on
Please.
this one? Because this is the game-changing movie for me. So when I saw, like, I had obviously seen other superhero movies before this, but there was something about Sam Raimi's Spider-Man that I think it was just about the age I was at when it came out, and I think it was about Tobey Maguire's interpretation of Peter Parker in the origin story that it just made it feel like the most grounded, realistic Spider-Man or a superhero movie that I had ever seen, where I saw, I don't know, qualities, I guess, in myself growing up in Peter. And it was also when I was at the point in my life where I wasn't just watching movies to sit back, relax, and watch movies, but that fascination as far as how they're created behind the scenes, but also, the deeper thematic points you could make through big, exciting action adventure story, like all that was starting to creep in. And the fact that this kind of put so much of that into focus for me made a big, big difference for me as a critic and a film lover. And also it ignited a fire in terms of encouraging me to jump into more midnight screenings, like giving me the urgency to see things first, because I fell so in love with this particular movie that when Spider-Man 2 came out, I think that was the very first opening night midnight screening I ever went to in my entire life.
That makes me so happy that Spider-Man affected your film career to such a level. That's
really
amazing.
Really did.
Well, speaking on Spider-Man, this had a similarly huge impact for me because I grew up thinking I wanted to see superheroes on the screen taken seriously, and this one really did. I think Blade really paved the way for what we got, but I think Spider-Man was the first movie that had everyone go, we can make a superhero film. We can make this a believable market blockbuster, and everyone saw this movie. Everyone went. It was an event. Felt huge. It changed that summer, and I think it really was like a Jaws level in how much it changed what blockbusters were for the summer.
That was also a very exciting quality of the release too. It felt very
huge.
communal. And again, this definitely might have something to do with the age that I was at the time, but it was like everyone in school saw Spider-Man.
Yeah.
Everyone.
And the posters were everywhere, and I was like, how is this happening? My guy.
For years before, the stuff that I would geek out about when I was young, like Ninja Turtles and Power Rangers, there was still that feeling that it wasn't widely accepted by everyone. But this was such a shared love with everyone that I knew, and it was so exciting, and it was so encouraging to me. And
briefly, we've talked about our experience, but briefly, the film itself, there's this incredible Thanksgiving scene, and very few films have a flavor like Thanksgiving. Thanksgiving. There's a parade. There's a lot that makes it feel like of a time, which I think is really important. There's also a really great detail in the Thanksgiving scene where Spider-Man is dressed in Green Goblin colors and Green Goblin is dressed in Spider-Man colors. They're green and purple and red and blue. And there's these little details in it that make you feel like the comic book that made me hope that we'd live in the world we now live in, where we'd have these details that people like me would notice, these little Easter eggs and these little like references that I never thought we'd see on screen. And now it is more commonplace. And it's got a really fun take on Norman. It's got a great take on the relationship with Aunt May and Peter Parker. I love the Uncle Ben in this film. It feels like Spider-Man, and I never thought we'd see the day, much less where we are now.
And oh, never mind. I was about to say, because this might be the last opportunity that I get to say this, but it's not. Do you want to know what my number 3 is?
I do.
Spider-Man 2.
My back.
Is
First
it your
time we're
number
different.
3?
First time we're different.
Okay. I think this is the best of the Sam Raimi trilogy. And what I was going to say before is I was just going to whisper Bruce Campbell's name because I love him so much. But this one, it earned the number 3 spot, and it earned a higher spot than Spider-Man 3 and Spider-Man 1.
Sure.
Mainly because of Alfred Molina as Doc Ock. I mean, we've talked about this a lot on Movie Club episodes, but that was probably one of the strongest movie villains I've ever seen in my life. And again, continuing with this thread of like my journey as a film lover, eventually striving to be a film critic and really engage with the making of the movies that I love so much.
Yeah.
Like that really proved to me how many more possibilities a movie has to like touch you and rock you to your core when you have such a thorough understanding of the foil, of the villain going after the hero. It's not just about the hero. It's about how it all comes together and how a villain could wind up furthering a hero's arc forward.
I totally agree with that. I think the villain of that film, which isn't my film, so I'm going to get to that in a minute, but my film coming in at number 3 is Spider-Man Homecoming.
Do you lay eggs?
What? No.
I've got Homecoming right there because it really gave us a new Peter Parker. It gave us a very different MCU Peter Parker. My biggest thing with Homecoming is I had to accept that this wasn't a comic book Spider-Man. This was an Avengers Spider-Man. For me, there's a lot of things about Spider-Man in the MCU that don't quite register as true to my comic book guy. Like, he's a very Iron Man-like character. And in the comic books, Spider-Man and Iron Man are friends, but they would disagree fundamentally in a lot of things. So it's really hard seeing how much a junior Iron Man the character is, because like I feel like there's even like politically they'd be on opposite sides of some stuff, so it's hard to see these two characters mirror each other quite so much. But I love Tom Holland's Spider-Man. I do struggle that he hasn't got to be Friendly Neighborhood very much, but this is the film where he got to be the guy that found churros, and he got to be the guy that rescued bikes, and he got to be the guy that swung around when he runs out of things to swing on. He's running through the suburbs. That's Spider-Man to me.
Yeah.
I love that sequence, and this is one of the best of all-time Easter eggs in any film hard stopped. You know which one I'm talking about?
I think so, yeah.
In Spider-Man Homecoming, Donald Glover is webbed to a car with the license plate USM1, standing for Ultimate Spider-Man number 1. This is a Volume 2 Ultimate Spider-Man number 1. The reason Miles Morales exists in part is because of Donald Glover, because Miles Morales is based on the idea of an African-American Spider-Man, half Latino, half African-American. Donald Glover ran a campaign on the internet when the internet was a baby, the Donald for Spider-Man campaign, because of Community. In Community, he's wearing a Spider-Man shirt. Someone saw that, said he should play Spider-Man. Brian Michael Bendis agreed, invented a character based on Donald Glover. All these years later, Donald Glover is now in a movie, a Spider-Man movie, referencing his nephew, Miles Morales. Donald Glover says, "My nephew lives there, be careful." He mentions a character based off him, therefore being the most meta Easter egg of all time, a character referencing a character based off himself because he was a fan of that character his whole life, and he's playing his own uncle. That's his nephew. He's playing an uncle, which is a villain known as the Prowler in the comic books, and the beautiful thing about this character is, in Peter Parker's life, his uncle is the voice of power and responsibility. In Miles Morales' life, his uncle is a power and responsibility character in the other way because he's a villain. So Miles Morales and Peter Parker have the same origin fundamentally about what responsibility is, but one from the source of good, one from the source of evil, and Donald plays that very evil in a good way. Best Easter egg of all time.
I love how I knew where you were starting with that, but whoa! I'm like, yes, I know exactly what I knew like 1% of what he was
Isn't that
talking
beautiful?
about. It really is.
It is one of the
really
most
is.
stunning things. Of all the things in the universe aligning, there's like humanity existing and that Easter egg. Like things had to land so specifically for creation to exist, and then they had to land so specifically again for that Easter egg. And they make me so happy.
I should probably just say that movie is my number 2 at this point.
Okay. That's fair.
I love that movie so much, and I hope it's come across clearly already how much I really do like the Andrew Garfield and the Tobey Maguire Peter Parkers.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, we're making a list. I might as well play favorites here. My favorite is Tom Holland. There is just like a purity, a youthfulness, an enthusiasm for just being Spider-Man that is radiating off the screen in that movie and is just utterly infectious. You can't watch him in that role discovering his abilities without feeling that excitement for what he can do with them yourself.
Yeah.
That is a very special quality. And, you know, I know we applaud Tom Holland a lot, but
Deservedly.
I mean, deservedly, but also not even enough. I mean, I know that Spider-Man is one of the biggest properties out there, and many people out there know him for his performance in this particular role. But go through his filmography because, I mean, he is just like bubbling over with talent.
Yeah.
I think about so many moments in this particular, like there's a lot of great qualities and components in Spider-Man Homecoming, but there's a handful of scenes and emotional beats that I think legitimately would not work without Tom Holland's abilities as an actor. It's like, I think about that scene where he's like kind of being crushed, and it breaks my heart to watch that. And it's largely because of the expression and the intensity on his face.
That is the recreation of Amazing Spider-Man number 33, a Steve Ditko cover, my favorite Spider-Man cover of all time, and they recreated it in the movie so perfectly that it's from the original 60s run of the comics, and it's perfect. I love that moment. My number 2.
Your number 2.
My number 2 is a rare sequel that I think is better than the first, a movie that was, oh my god, I was so excited for the original, I can't believe it exists. Oh wait, how did you exceed my expectations? Spider-Man 2.
Are you serious?
I don't mean to jump ahead, but we have the same
number 1. So we were only different
so
by
excited.
one film,
We are.
arguably, and they're
Yeah.
just switched.
Okay.
So we had the same 8,
Yeah.
except one switched.
I
That's
feel
incredible.
like my list has been validated because a Spider-Man expert largely agrees with it.
And our 2 and 3, those are almost interchangeable. I would
Okay. Yeah.
almost switch Homecoming and Spider-Man 2 for myself.
I could
So,
be okay
like,
with that.
So yeah, we have pretty much the same list, and we did not compare notes.
No, we
wanted
didn't.
a surprise.
I can assure you that.
My Spider-Man 2 experience is because a villain was not in that era of comic book movies that good.
Mm-hmm.
And we got one that was still to this day one of the top. We got slightly improved effects. We got a rare sequel as good or better than the first. We also got a movie that was taken so seriously again. I didn't think we'd get a first Spider-Man. I didn't think we'd get a sequel, especially that quickly. I loved the evolution of Mary Jane's relationship with him. I loved how Tobey fell into Spider-Man even more. I really liked that Sam Raimi took some bolder choices. There's this great scene that's actually very horror movie based where Ox tentacles come out and they're just, and like, to me, that is the darker side of Spider-Man that we don't still see that much. So I love Spider-Man 2 quite a bit, but not as much as our number 1 pick.
I can't believe this is both of our number 1.
It's near perfect.
Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse.
We're a little team. Me as the teacher who can still do it. You as the student who can do it, just not as good. I'm proud of us.
I love it so much.
I fear we could be here all day if I go through the multitude of reasons why I think this movie is incredible. And I'm so glad that it has the Academy Award to just make sure as many people out there know how high quality this production is. That animation is just utterly mind-blowing to me. Every single frame of that movie is stunning. And the way that it embraces certain qualities of comic books, like, how did you pull that off? It is so beautifully done and so, like, it's so seamless. You would think if you were taking a bold swing with a style of animation like that, eventually something wouldn't work.
Yeah, but the characters,
everything works.
The voice actors, the different styles of animation, the fact that each actor is embodying a different visual aesthetic.
Yeah.
The fact that each of the characters, like Spider-Gwen's aesthetic is exactly her comic book. Spider-Man Noir's aesthetic is exactly his comic book. And then you've got the fact that that's Haley Stanfield, Nicolas Cage, and it works amazingly well. You've got Peter B. Parker, who is one of my favorite characterizations of Spider-Man that I never thought we'd see, like this sad, broken, has to find himself again Spider-Man. And I mean, come on, the way that Chris Pine plays like hero Spider-Man, Everything about this works from top to bottom, and it's got like 6 villains, and it doesn't feel crowded. Think about how many villains are in that film. It
is
never
amazing
feels
to
overwhelming.
Because like that's another movie. Because we had said this earlier in the episode about a different one. That's another movie that really it tries to accomplish a lot in a not so long running time, and it does it.
And
Like,
you know
it
what
really
doesn't get enough
does it.
credit? It explains quantum physics to kids. That movie explains quantum physics to children. How do you do that in a Spider-Man movie?
I think one of my absolute favorite qualities of this movie, though, is how it's not Spider-Man anymore. It's Spider-People.
Yeah.
Because the more movies that we have out there that encourage inclusivity and the idea that
Anyone can wear the mask.
anyone can wear the mask, anyone can be a hero, and it encourages you to step up and embrace who you are. I think that's a very important thing to have. And I mean, it's the Spider-Man episode. So with great power comes great responsibility. And there's a significant amount of responsibility that comes with the opportunity to work with such a popular brand like this and to bring those stories out to like the absolute most masses. That's what these superhero movies can do. And I think the fact that Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse puts such emphasis on important qualities like that it's a very big deal, and it can't be celebrated enough.
One of the quick hits, just because we could spend an hour on this and I'd like to. The quick hits, casting, perfect times like 10. Villains, incredible and great villain redesigns like the Scorpion, like Doc Ock, like all those things. Comedy, it's Spider-Man, lands the comedy. Heart, oh my God, do you heartbreak for so many different moments. Character reinvention, Aunt May has never been like this, and I now see her like this so well and beautifully. You've also got the ability to grow into a franchise. I want to see spinoffs of each of these movies. I want it to keep going. Originality, there is nothing quite like the special effects in this film. I've never seen a movie like it before or since. I think that's going to continue with the second one. It's a very special piece of everything. Easter eggs, good God, does this movie give you a lot. I won't go on another Donald Glover rant, but I'd like to. Also, the fact that it ties into certain comic book storylines with details like Kingpin being a specific Kingpin from the comic books. Bill Sienkiewicz's Kingpin, very specific Kingpin starting arc. Look at Bill Sienkiewicz's work. He's amazing. And finally, is it the character? And not only is it the character, it's authentic to Miles, it's authentic to Peter, it's authentic to Spider-Gwen, and it's authentic to Stan in one of the best cameos, one of the best beautiful parting gifts we could have. Stan Lee's moment, Into the Spider-Verse is number 1 because it's magic and it's perfect.
All right. Do we want to recap our lists?
Let's do it.
All
They're very
right.
close
Should
to
I
each
go?
other.
Should I go first?
Yeah.
All right. I have 8, The Amazing Spider-Man 2, 7, Spider-Man 3, 6, The Amazing Spider-Man, 5, Spider-Man Far From Home, 4, Spider-Man, 3, Spider-Man 2, 2, Spider-Man Homecoming, and the number 1 is Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse.
I got 8, Amazing Spider-Man 2, 7, Spider-Man 3, 6, Amazing Spider-Man, 5, Far From Home, 4, Spider-Man 1, 3, Homecoming, 2, Spider-Man 2, and number 1, Into the Spider-Verse.
I'm just so proud that we did it and it didn't turn into a 5-hour episode.
I'm proud that we agreed for the same reasons and we were able to like succinctly, because this could have been a 5-hour
Kind of
episode.
nice. I mean, that's what Movie Club is all about, you know.
Sharing love of this.
Yeah, sharing our love and enthusiasm for these movies, even if we don't agree all the time. That's if you have a different list than we did, put in the comment section below. Share your list there and tell us why you think some movies are better than the others. We really want to know your thoughts as well.
I would love to see lists because I love lists and also love obsessing over people's nuances. So bring those in the comments. I'm very curious about it. We will see you real soon right back here at Collider Movie Club. And I want to see your lists in the comments. I'm going to read them. That's your responsibility. It's your power. You make it happen. I'm obsessed with lists and Spider-Man. You